Today, the Subcommittee on Water, Wildlife, and Fisheries will examine 4 bills. Our first bill, sponsored by Congressman Babin, would honor the life of Jocelyn Nungaray by codifying the renaming of the Anahuac National Wildlife Refuge in Chambers County, Texas, to the Jocelyn Nungaray National Wildlife Refuge. This is an exciting day. It is important to note that just last week, the Senate passed companion legislation by voice vote, and it's my hope that the House moves quickly to pass this important legislation to honor Jocelyn. We are honored to have her mother with us here today. The second bill, sponsored by Congressman Murphy, promotes responsible development of coastal communities by fixing errors made in the administration of the Coastal Barriers Resources Act, or COBRA, in North Topsail Beach, North Carolina. This legislation would remove approximately 590 acres of the 5,865 acres that encompasses COBRA Unit L06 in North Topsail Beach. The areas being removed by this legislation are some of the most developed areas in the entire COBRA system. And given the success of COBRA in disincentivizing development elsewhere and the clear evidence of long-standing full complement of infrastructure, it is clear these lands should have never been a part of the COBRA system in the first place. The town of North Topsail Beach has been working with Congress for many years to address this issue, and I hope this hearing is a significant step towards finally coming to a resolution. The third bill under consideration is sponsored by Congressman Ezell, and it would reauthorize the Integrated Coastal and Ocean Observation System Act, administered by NOAA. The Integrated Ocean Observation System, or IOOS, equips local decision makers with the most up-to-date science and data, ensures that coastal communities are protected from and prepared for disasters, and supports the many industries that operate in our marine waters. Our last bill, sponsored by Congressman Larson, reauthorizes the Northwest Straits Advisory Commission. The commission was first authorized by Congress in 1998 to respond to public resistance to a national marine sanctuary that was proposed in the region. Since its creation, the commission has made efforts to protect and restore marine resources in the Northwest Straits. Unfortunately, our colleagues across the aisle have once again decided to ignore one of their own bills, and with that, I want to take time to thank our witnesses for being here today, and I look forward to a robust conversation. Thank you for your testimony, and I will now recognize members for 5 minutes each for questioning. I'm going to start, Mr. Mico. Dr. Babin's legislation helps to highlight the importance of the National Wildlife Refuge system itself. However, we know the refuge system faces serious management challenges. Last Congress, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was granted Good Neighbor authority to help better manage the refuge system. However, the authority was lumped in under the existing Good Neighbor authority. The authority for the service was lumped in under the existing Good Neighbor authority with the BLM and the Forest Service. Could you outline for the subcommittee how specifically tailoring Good Neighbor authority to fit the service's unique needs would help better manage the refuge system?
Yes, thank you, Congresswoman, for the question. And we certainly appreciate the inclusion of the Good Neighbor authority for the service, and it provides us additional tools in our toolbox to work closely with our partners or key constituents in our wildland fire work, in enhancing and protecting habitats in our national refuge system. We have some needs for some clarity in the legislation and the language to help us better understand the direction and to utilize the tools in that toolbox to put conservation on the ground. And we would appreciate an opportunity and support an opportunity to work closely with the committee.
But there are some tweaks that need to be made to make it so that it works better for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Is that fair?
That is fair.
All right. What is this administration doing to increase hunting and fishing access in the refuge system? And will providing greater access to hunters and anglers be a priority going forward?
Yes, thanks for the follow-up question on a refuge system and its opportunities to provide access for fishing and hunting and other recreation opportunities. We know it's a high priority for this administration, and we appreciate the opportunity to utilize our 573 wildlife refuge systems, as well as the 72 national fish hatcheries, to allow access for hunting and angling and other opportunities for recreation on those lands. We recently published our hunt fish rule that we publish every year that opens up opportunities across our system, across the country, to allow hunter, angler access and other bird watching types of activities.
Was there an announcement made just last week along those lines about how to increase the access for hunting and fishing?
Yes, there was.
Okay, and who made that announcement?
That announcement, I'm not absolutely positive on who made the actual announcement of that, Congresswoman.
But it came out of your office?
Correct, it did.
And could you explain just a little bit more about it?
So the process, or the work itself, the process, we go through about an 18-month process to work with the communities through the refuge system to identify additional opportunities for hunting and angling and other recreational opportunities that fit within the refuge system. That process goes through a public comment period. Receive that public comment back, we review those comments, and then make recommendations to open up those lands.
Okay. In light of this administration taking actions around the Jocelyn Nungaray National Wildlife Refuge, how is the service working to encourage youth visitation to the refuge system?
So the service certainly respects and cherishes our position and our unique position to allow access and provide opportunities for youth to engage in recreation and conservation across our refuge system. We host about 69 million visitors nationwide annually in our wildlife refuge system. The Jocelyn Nungaray National Wildlife Refuge itself receives about 800,000 visitors. We have specific programs that engage youth, including our youth game warden program that introduce teens to the interest of conservation law enforcement. That refuge also sponsors the Junior Duck Stamp program, which introduced youths K through 12 to migratory bird conservation through art and science.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And with that, I yield back. Ms. Nungaray, I want to thank you so much for being here and sharing Jocelyn's story with us. I've had the opportunity to engage with you on several occasions as we've had to relive the terror and the horror that you've had to live with over the last year. And we all want to express our condolences as well as to commend you for the strength and perseverance that you have shown. Can you give the committee just a few examples of Jocelyn's love of animals and how that makes the renaming of this refuge so fitting?
I appreciate the condolences. The amount of support really does truly mean a lot to me and my family. I think that's what's gotten us through a lot of this hard time in our lives. But Jocelyn, her love for animals was unmatched, really. There was a time she took in a pigeon into her room and didn't say anything, just a random street pigeon, and she swore that its legs were hurt, and she was nursing it back to health, and it was wrapped up in a shirt of hers on her bed. And I don't know how long she had it there, how many hours, but she's like, I'm nursing it back to health, I have to save it, it's hurt. She has brought in a Tupperware box, like a large tote that had about more than a dozen toads in it with dirt. She says she was making sure that they all had family together. She has rescued snakes. She has taken care of locusts, which I think are the ungodly creatures that make the ungodly noises. But she loved everything about the outdoors. Every year we had an annual Frio vacation where we go out of town for a week and go into the wild and have cabin and spend time with family, and she just lived outdoors. She found peace in the outdoors and just loved everything about it. And it's just
I have a niece that has a collection of 75 snails as her pets, and I would call her quirky as well. I think that's a good word, but it's a very positive word.
Very positive, very makes them unique,
Yes, it
different
does.
to their own. But yes, she She loved all animals. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter what it was. It could have been a pigeon. It could have been an animal. We had recently just taken in a new cat. My best friend wasn't able to keep her anymore, and she begged me for this cat, and she only got to have her for a week, but before she passed. And within that week, she just showed her so much love and care.
Well, I can't wait to visit.
It's beautiful. It truly has an ungodly amount of serenity there and peace. It's filled with peace. Please
Thank
visit. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Leonard, do other communities on Topsail Island have similar COBRA issues to North Topsail Beach?
Thank you for the question, and no, they don't. The two other towns are not in COBRA, and they are geographically the same as North Topsail Beach. They are serviced by the same infrastructure as North Topsail Beach, but were not included in the COBRA system because there were more structures on the ground at the time the analysis was done.
So is this further evidence that the areas in question in Unit L06 should be removed from the COBRA system?
Again, thank you for your question. I believe that, yes, the fact that the two other towns on the island, in addition to the southern half of our town, are not in the COBRA shows the misapplication of the COBRA inclusion criteria back in the 80s. In my testimony, I provide a reference from House Report 97-158, OBRA 1981, in which Congress explains that an area that has a full complement of infrastructure, some combination of roads, water, sewers, electrical lines, etc., but not structures, suggests that the area is, as a practical matter, already developed.
Well, I appreciate your testimony in that regard. And Dr. Howden, just very quickly, you've spent many years working on coastal issues along the Gulf region before the IOS program was formally created by Congress in 2009. You also state in your testimony that IOOS works because of its structure. Can you talk about how the creation of IOOS as a formal program assisted in coastal protection efforts?
Yes, thank you for the question. Prior to IUS, first of all, there wasn't the same infrastructure that there is now out in the coastal ocean. There was no high-frequency radar network measuring surface currents over the coastal ocean, and there weren't gliders. There were fewer buoys out there, and one of the real strengths of IUS is the regional associations and the way the regional associations reach out to all the stakeholders in the communities and find out what their priorities are. And through a number of workshops and meetings, one of the key variables that kept coming up for fisheries or search and rescue or any number of topics was the need to know what surface currents are. So the build out of the high frequency radar network is a real boon to coastal observing.
I appreciate that. And I now call on Ms. Elfreth for 5 minutes of questioning.